Our project was about where do bees live, and it was a project of exploration by Billy, Oliver, Matilda, and myself. It all gets started. Well, Billy was sitting by a little garden there and he was looking at something which intrigued me, so I've come and sat by him and asked, "What are you doing?" And Billy said that he's looking at the bee. And I said, "Well, what's the bee doing?" And Billy's replied, "The bee is taking nectar from one flower to another flower, to another flower, to another flower." Well, this is where the conversation then began. I asked Billy, how does it do that? And Billy said it eats it. Matilda was walking by and she's heard this. And she said, "It's dropping honey." And Oliver, who was also close by, then came and said, "The bee makes honey." So after watching the bee for a bit, I asked the children, "Where does a bee live?" Billy told me it lives in honey. Oliver said it lives in water, and Matilda declared in little tents or something like that. Billy said he lives in nectar and it is sticky, sticky, sticky. So the next question we come across was what do bees do with the nectar? Billy said it eats the nectar. Matilda told me they take them home and they get nectar from trees and flowers. Oliver didn't know. He wasn't really sure. He shrugged his shoulders at me. Billy then declared that the bee we were watching is a honeybee. We did go off and ask how he knew it was a honeybee and the difference, and he told me because it had the orange and the black stripes, and that's why it was a honeybee, and it was a big bee. And then you get the bumblebees that are really big bees. But I asked the children if they wanted to be involved in a project and if we could find out where bees live. And they were very keen for that. So the next time we sat down, we were looking at some bee books, see what we could find out. I first showed the children the photos of when we were looking at the bee in the bee garden, and we reiterated what they had told me about the bees. And we looked at a couple of bee books. We looked at the pictures of the bees and the flowers they like, and the children pointed to the flowers that they liked. And following is a snippet of this conversation that we all had together. So Billy told me he likes the sunflower. "And what happens when they eat the nectar?" I asked. Billy said, "Bees have two jobs, to make honey and make more flowers." And Oliver nodded his head, replied, "Honey, I like honey." And Billy said, "Bees eat fruit too." And Oliver said that he had strawberries in his lunchbox. And Matilda said she has blackberries at home. So that led to a bit more conversation about how bees actually pollinate our flowers and pollinate our fruits and pollinate our vegetables. And we could have gone that way, but our question was, where do bees live? So we then found a page on the beehives, and we learnt there are worker bees, drone bees, and the queen bees. The following week, when I asked the children, "Can you tell me what honeycomb might look like?" Matilda said it really looks like a big flower. Billy said it's bumpy and maybe really hard. I then gave the children some paper and pencil and asked if they could draw what they think the honeycomb may look like. Billy drew lots of circles and said it's round like a circle. Matilda drew a really long tunnel. I asked, why is there a long tunnel, Matilda? And she told me that so the bees could get into the honeycomb. Oliver wasn't quite sure, but he said he's pretty sure that there would be bumps on there. Billy said that bees go on a flower and another flower and another one and another one and another one. We then watched a video on YouTube to see how bees make honey. After watching the video, I asked the children, "How many bees live in a hive?" And Billy said all of them, like this many, holding up all his fingers. Matilda remembered that the queen bee lived there, and Oliver said there's lots. "And where do the bees make the honey?" Matilda said in space. Billy said no, not in space, maybe in tiny holes to make honey to eat. I then reminded the children of the video and of our bee book, and we reiterated what we had actually learnt. It was then time to come and explore the honeycomb. So we had two different kinds of honeycomb, and I first asked the children just to look at the honeycomb. and to tell me what they could see. And Billy said there was hundreds of holes in there. When Matilda then stuck a finger in it, that's tasty, she said. So Billy thought he'd better have a try too, and he said it was quite sweet, and that's really yummy. Matilda's yummy. And Oliver smelled the honey and said it smells stinky. And that was a great idea, so I asked all the children to smell the honey. And Matilda said it smells like flowers. I then asked, why do you think it smells like flowers? And then she remembered, because that's where the bees make the honey. That's where they bring it all from. So do the honeys taste the same? The children. And Billy said, no, they taste different. And Matilda agreed that they taste different. So then I asked the children why they think the two honeys and the two honeycombs might taste different. And Matilda said that they're not from the same flowers. She said this one is from plant food and this one is from something else. And Billy thought they were from different coloured flowers. And he thought that this was from that this is yellow and goggly, and the honeycomb is very hard. So this led us to looking at the colours, the smell, and the reasons why they are different. And they do come from different flowers, and they do come from different locations. So the flowers where you live and the fruits, etc., where you live is how the honey has those different tastes. So the following week when we came together, we decided to make the beehive. So I had collected all different resources of what the children had talked about, the tunnel, the lumps, the colours, etc. And I showed the children resources, and then I asked them to put together what they think the beehive might look like. And Billy chose 2 egg cartons and glued them together, and he said that it's a very small one. And Matilda immediately started working on the tunnel because that was her idea. So she's painted it yellow, and she's found some stringy honeycomb looking paper and things to put on it. And Oliver straight away started to glue the small egg cartons onto the big box. Now, he spent an awful long time here. Once Matilda had done her tunnel, she was ready to go off and play. Billy stayed and helped Oliver for quite a bit, adding on the honeycomb pieces. Then he decided he had had enough and went off to play, but Oliver stayed until the box was complete. So this was a major interest for Oliver, the art side of it, the creating side of it. So here's the final product. Beautiful, all put together. Took a couple of days to dry. Then Oliver said, we need to take it out. We need to put it in the tree for the bees. So the children carried it out to the tree and found a tree, and we popped it up in the tree, hoping that the bees would come. So our final stage, I had caught a real bee and I asked the children to just look at it with their naked eye and ask what they noticed about the bee. Billy noticed the wings, and I asked the children how many wings, and they all replied 2. Matilda noticed it had a face, and Billy said the antennas and legs. And then I asked how many legs does a bee have, and Oliver and Matilda said they don't know, and Billy said 2 and pointed to them, because that's all we could see with our naked eye. I then placed the bee under a microscope, which was connected to our computer, which blew up a big picture of the bee, and then asked the children that same question, what can they see? And Billy noticed that he could see the hair. Matilda noticed the shape of the wings and the pattern in their wings. And Oliver counted that there were 3 legs. The 4th leg was tucked away, but that was a great observation from the 2 legs from the naked eye, so he could see 3 under the telescope. And Billy noticed that it has a nose, and the nose is used to drink the nectar. So this was a really great experience, seeing to the naked eye and then seeing it blown up. So in revising with the children, I asked the children, do we remember where the nectar goes then? And Matilda said to the stomach, and Oliver said to the hive. Yes, it does go to the stomach and then it goes to the hive. And I asked the children, how many stomachs did we learn that the bees have? And Billy replied 2, which is correct. The children then drew the bee on the chalkboards. While they were doing this, we revisited what we had learnt. And Billy remembered that the bees eat the nectar, and Oliver said they take it to the hive, and then said that bees make the honey, and Matilda said bees help our flowers grow. So in my reflections of the project, I wasn't sure where the project was going to lead us, but the children were definitely excited about being part of this project, and the connection we have built together has continued. It is wonderful to see the children connecting to other aspects of the kindy. So Billy and Matilda and Oliver will all connect throughout the day in different play areas. Prior to that, there was no connection. And Billy was quite vocal throughout the project, as you probably noticed, and Oliver was the quieter child. However, when it came to the art side of the building of the project, Oliver took control here and shared his ideas, and he stayed until the hive was finished. It was Oliver's idea to then put it in the tree, so he was really extending on that learning. The project really helped Matilda feel like she belonged, and every morning would ask if we were going to work on our project. The project gave the children focus, was meaningful to them, built connections, and helped them learn something new in various ways, such as creative arts, IT, books, conversation. And I have to say, it was very interesting to me too.